Tandem Nomads, episode 79.
So it's not a question for me to choose between both lives. I like the idea how to complement both things.
Welcome to Tandem Nomads, the podcast show designed to help expat partners turn their career challenges into great opportunities and become global entrepreneurs. Every other Tuesday, you will find great inspiration and practical tips to build a portable and successful business. To download your free guidebook on the 6 steps to build a successful portable business, go to tandemnomads.com. Hello, Nomad Nation. This is Amel Draghi, and our special guest today is Sonia Meza-Cuadra. Sonia, are you ready for the ride?
I'm ready, Amel.
Fantastic. Sonia comes from Peru. She lived abroad with her husband and kids in France, Guatemala, the UK, and the US. While moving from a country to another, she started volunteering, obtained 3 masters, and worked as an economy professor and researcher, and then as a manager in a major multinational mining company. So today, Sonia is a consultant associate in international development at Synergos Consulting Services. She is also a lecturer at Columbia University and a member of the expat group of the Responsible Mining Foundation in Amsterdam. Sonia is also, on top of that, the chairman of El Conocimiento Se Comparte, which is an NGO designed to support teachers from poor areas in Peru. Sonia, this is an amazing description and bio that you have and achievements that you had in your life. I tried to summarize it, but is there anything I missed?
Maybe I will add something that for me is interesting, that here in New York, I am part of the board of the Women's International Forum, which is an organization that the wife of ambassador run. And that is something that I find very interesting also.
That's true, actually. On top of all what you do, you're also a diplomatic spouse. And that's a very good point to highlight because I don't know if you know Nomad Nation, but a lot of diplomatic spouses have a real role to play for their husband's position. So I think we're going to talk about it quite a lot. And your activity in the forum must be also interesting. So thank you for highlighting that. So before we start going into the details, could you tell me a little bit about your journey before you moved abroad with your husband, and what were your dreams? What was your situation before you started traveling the world with your husband?
Okay. Before I started moving, I was working as a financial analyst for a development bank in my country, in Lima, Peru. My husband and I, we were classmates at the university, but he decided that he wanted to be a diplomat. And when he finished his career, he got a scholarship from the French government. So we got married and we went to Paris, and both of us, we got a master's degree.
What was your career plans at that time before? What were you envisioning for your career at that time?
Yeah, I guess when I was at the university, I was enjoying my time. I was not thinking very much. I was very lucky because when I finished university, I immediately got a job. So I was thinking that I was going to have a interesting life in Peru. I never thought really to move abroad. The first time that we moved abroad, it was not difficult because, as I mentioned, both of us, we went to study in France. Still, the transition was a little tough because I didn't realize at that time that I was doing a change in different areas. I became married. I moved abroad, and I got pregnant when I was abroad. So many changes at the same time that I was probably not ready for so many changes at that time.
Yeah. So how did you manage that? How did you manage that transition for you?
I really, I think probably is part of my behavior, but I normally try to enjoy everything that I'm doing. I don't think much about that. The toughest part of moving came later on when I realized that I have been leaving a part of something that was important for me, which was my professional career. And I start really to feel that I was afraid of not being able to come back to my own job. And then I stopped enjoying much that kind of life and start to prepare myself to come back to update my skills and also I at certain point I thought that there were some things that I prefer more balance in my life. Now I always think that I can do anything. I even enjoy doing the dishes if it's not the only thing that I'm doing. I remember very well something that I mentioned to you, that I was really happy enjoying being with my little son and my daughter in a park in Paris. And after suddenly I start thinking, that is so nice, but I really don't like the idea that I will be only a mother forever. And at that moment, I realized that I had to really move and do something because you are not going to be again on track if you don't do something for improving your skills again.
Yeah, this is so amazing what you shared here, because I think that's a very good point. The fact that you proactively realize that what you want to do, you realize that, I guess, at the right time, that this is not what you want for your whole life. And in order to make the life for yourself that you want, you decided to work on your skills, on developing your skills in order to be able to build your career while moving from a country to another. So what did you do then to build your skills? What was the process for you?
Yeah, probably a lesson for me was the first time that I moved back to Peru, and I thought that I was ready to get a good job, and I realized that I even though I had a very interesting master degree in La Sorbonne, and I also was able to speak French. I was very proud of these two achievements, but I realized at that moment that those kind of skills were not necessarily demanded in the Peruvian market. And of course, I got an interesting job as a professor and researcher at that time. But then I thought, okay, next time when I move abroad, I am going to be always looking at what are the opportunities in Peru, because I know that after 5 years, I always go back to Peru. And so when I was ready to move back again, I decided to study again. This time I got a master's degree in corporate social responsibility, because I noticed that I love development. I like international development, but in Peru, the market was demanding really people who were able to work for companies, but doing programs with the communities around, everything that is related to corporate social responsibility. So when I moved back, I was ready really to start a career with the mining company that I already told you that I was a manager there.
Okay, that's great. I'm going to break down what you said because it's very interesting. But before that, could you tell me what career did you have before you started doing mining?
I am an economist. Mm-hmm. I've been always linked to development. So I am a development economist. But in my first years, I worked first with as I said, a development bank. So I was in charge of the finance area of development.
Okay.
Then when I was in Washington, I worked for an international organization. And I was there managing programs with farmers, and then when I moved to London, I was working for an NGO. So I always been in the international development field. Mm-hmm. What I did is I moved in the same field with different perspective. So when I saw that the market for international development economies was, in the case of Peru, more related to companies that they were starting corporate social responsibility programs. So I study how this development is managed when you have a business perspective.
Yeah, so that's really interesting. So if I break down what you did here, on the first ground is that you did manage to find jobs in foreign countries where you moved. And afterwards you started, and I love when you insist on looking at what the market needs. And that's one of the first things about building a portable career, is to understand what the market needs. And you were very clever at that. You realized that the money, the people who are paying, are actually the companies, not the NGOs. So you decided to upgrade your skills in order to be able to offer your services to the companies so that you can continue your career, right?
Yeah.
And so basically what you did is, number one, figure out what were your actual skills. And I loved when you also considered what your life was going to be. You told us that you knew that you would have to go back to Peru on a regular basis. So you also looked at what are the needs in Peru. And that's how you actually got into mining, because you saw that there was a big need in that industry, right?
Yes. And this is consistent on what I'm doing here in New York, because when I arrived here, I had already a consultancy for the mining company that I was working with. But I thought here, there are also a lot of knowledge that are interesting for me. United Nations, Columbia University, many other interesting places to be related with. So I thought I really need to find something that I can relate, learn what they are good, and complement my skills, because also at that time I started realizing that I would like to have a career that I can balance with my diplomatic life, because I like being part of the diplomatic environment also. I just came now from a lunch. I go to the cocktails, and I feel that also gives me something interesting. So it's not a question for me to choose between both lives. I like the idea how to complement both
that's very smart
things. Yeah,
very interesting, smart. So Nomad Nation, the reason why I asked Sonia to come here on the show to share with you her experience is because she's the living proof of the importance of being able to assess your skills, to assess what you need to get, and in order to do that, to assess what the market needs. So is there any tips you can share on how you figure out what the market needs in your field so that you can continue to have a career?
I think probably I already researched where the market was. But for instance, now I'm here. I started a very interesting network with all the people who are involved in the mining industry and development, but also there is an important initiative in United Nations during these years, which is the approval of the Sustainable Development Goals, which is something very particular of this period. And so I thought that is something that I can be involved. Now my clients intersect that. organizations that are trying to follow these new approved goals. Some of them are, of course, mining companies because they know that I have the experience in the ground, because that is something that gives me an edge. Here in New York, there are a lot of very knowledgeable professionals on the mining and development sector, but very few have been able to work on the field with the communities. So that gives me a competitive advantage.
That's interesting. So you try to make yourself different or unique, and you have built up, you have found your niche, and I'll talk a lot about it.
Exactly. That's the word.
Yeah. So that's a very important tip that you're sharing here. Find where you can be unique in your market, what unique skills you can bring. And that sometimes takes time for some people to find. But I think what you've done is also develop a network and be a listener. You've been listening to what was happening on the market, and you developed the network, and I'm pretty sure that you've been asking questions around, right, to figure out the answers of what is needed to be in that niche.
The network is so important. I built my network from zero, because when I arrived, what I did is I sent email to the people who were at the time consultants for me, that I knew that they were here, and through them I met other people. So now I have this network, and I have my network in Peru, I have my network in London, I have several networks, and I spend time on not losing contact. So this is why I travel. I always go to conferences that are related to the subject. I write on the subject. I made a speech, since that the network know that I am still involved on that subject. So I feel network are key, really, for building a career.
That's very smart. Actually, you said three things that I would really highlight for our listeners. Is the first one, go to the events where your people of your industry are, and keep contacts. I loved when you said that. Keep those contacts. It doesn't matter if you need them today or tomorrow, but build real relationships with people, because that's really important. And I guess in order to do that, you have to also always insist on listening, being interested, asking questions, not only selling yourself. That's the point of networking, is to exchange information, not only sell. And the second thing you said that I like, and I really encourage you, Nomad Nation, to do, is to write about your expertise. Do blogging, offer free articles to specialized magazines of your field, and offer yourself also to speak for special events. Those are really good tips. Number one is networking, obviously. Go to conferences. Number two is writing, because that makes you become the expert. And the more you write and the more your articles get attraction, the more opportunities people might ask you to speak. So
that's
these are
completely true.
That's really good tips. Thank you for that. Tell us a little bit, now you've developed, tell us just a little bit for those who don't know a lot about consulting. We're not going to go deep into it because there's so much other things I want to tell about what you've achieved. But very briefly, how did you manage to build your clientele in New York, and what do you actually do for your clients?
Actually, to build the clients is also, again, the network helps a lot, because when you go to these events and you talk to the people, normally in those events there are different people who go. Are people who are part of corporations that are implementing programs. So talking to them, they know that you know something, so they start to share with you what are their challenges, and you can start have a conversation and say, you can approach in this way your main issues. And then they call you, okay, why you don't give me a consultancy and helped me to figure out what is the best way to approach my corporate social responsibility program. And so I feel is the best way is moving around and talking to people, not necessarily to get clients. Sometimes it's only because with this conversation, you can also exchange a point of view about what is the best solution. And you can later on partner, for instance, with other consultancy firms. So I feel most importantly is that you keep very knowledgeable in the subject, reading a lot. I love to read. And sometimes I laugh because I thought, oh my God, I always reading about mining and development, community development, local supplier employability, all the different issues that are related to mining and communities. But I like it. I enjoy it. It's not for me something that I said, oh my God, I have to read. No. When I sometimes I even try myself to read about other subjects because I don't want to be always reading about that, but I enjoy. It's my passion.
Yeah,
really.
that's a very good point. To be passionate about what you do helps a lot when you interact with people to show your knowledge because you want to share it anyways. So the more you share your knowledge and want to help people, the more they will ask you at the end of the day for more extensive help. And that's when you get contracts.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
How did you decide how to charge your prices, etc., your clients? Because I guess
Okay.
at the end of
There are different clients. What is very common is that you submit proposal for a request for proposal. So in that case, they gave you a range of more or less what is the budget that they have. That is the easy one because you budget your consultancy and you figure out if it's really something that you can do it, or if the budget that they have is too small, maybe you pass this time. And also I have to say that here in New York with Synergos Consulting Services, and they have a whole methodology about how do the budgeting. But to budget something basically is about your individual fee. You know more or less in the market what are the range of how the consultants or at your level charge for that. Mm-hmm. So it's time, your fee, and of course there are some fixed cost, but it's not difficult really. When you start in the business and you are not very well known, probably you need to also take that in consideration. But when you have already clients that value what you are offering as a product, it becomes easy, really.
No, that's fantastic. Thank you for those great tips here. So I would like to move to talk a little bit about your NGO, because on top of all of that, you did create an amazing NGO. Could you tell us a little bit about it and how did you manage to do that?
Oh, that is such, I think it's a tribute to my dad. I am very grateful because I have 3 siblings. The 3 of them, they are teachers in a public school in California. They are elementary teachers. And they have been very successful. They got prizes. And one of them, my sister, Nancy, in 2009, she was elected the top bilingual teacher in California. And at the ceremony, we were the 4 of us, and my dad said to us, okay, now it's time to give back to our country of origin. Mm-hmm. And because the 3 of them are teachers, so we came together and said, okay, why we don't organize an NGO so we can go to Peru to teach teaching methodologies to teachers in the poor areas of Peru. And little by little, we start to learning how to organize that initiative. We've been already involved on that for more than 5 years. We have trained more than 2,000 teachers, and things are really growing and growing.
Wow.
Yeah.
So your NGO, the purpose of your NGO is to help the teachers in Peru to be able to do their job properly and help the kids grow with their skills. Is it it?
Correct.
Yeah.
My siblings teach methodologies on how to teach better reading, writing, math, and now we are including also methodologies to teach English, because in my country now English is obligatory in all the public schools.
Yeah. And it is amazing that I think what I like, the reason I wanted to talk about your NGO is to show how when you've managed to have your own success, it is wonderful to be able to at some point also give back. And because I think in the expat world, it works in both ways. I mean, a lot of expat partners do volunteer and do great job in volunteering for organizations. And what interesting is that once you have your own success, then you can launch your own NGO and have other volunteers work with you for those projects. So any tips on how are you managing to do all what you do, and on top of that, or managing an NGO that's not even in where you are? How are you doing that?
Actually, our NGO is registered in California, and we are now working registered in Peru. But we have a group of friends who also are volunteer for our NGO. The accountant is a volunteer. The person in charge of communication is a volunteer. So all this group of people help us to manage a little bit some of the different roles that we need. So we are now thinking that probably we will soon need a person who are employees. But right now, everybody is a volunteer.
So how do you manage to get volunteers who want to work with you?
That is, I think, people who see what we do, they offer. Every single volunteer were friends who see what we do, but probably also, and I must say, when we go to Peru, we always try to get interviews in the radio, in the newspaper, magazine, so people know what we are doing. And they write us and offer their time to become a volunteers, but they need to know that we are there.
Yeah, using PR is very smart. I mean, doing some PR, and a lot of journalists, when the cause is great and the project is great, are more than happy to talk about that project. So it's a very good tip. If Nomad Nation, you have this kind of project you want to share and expand and grow, because the exposure brings you not only people who are ready to finance, but also people who are ready to volunteer for those who don't have the means financially. So that's really great. But to go back to your skills, and I think this is where it rounds up. What are the skills you had to develop, and what are those that you learned from the NGO and those that you brought to the NGO to be able to do that?
One thing that I learned is how to be best organized. I thought that because I want to do many things that I enjoy doing, I need to always have my calendar well set, and because I very early in my life I noticed that the stress is because you procrastinate, you leave things at the last minute, and for me it's terrible. I cannot do that. I really always putting my agenda 3 days really before the deadline. So I learned how to be organized. So, and also I enjoy what you are doing, because I always laugh about myself. I have to change from my suit to my dress to go to the cocktail, and completely change my whole mind. I was really discussing about this interesting project about women empowerment in I don't know, in Bangladesh, and then I go to the cocktail and I meet this interesting person who don't really care about doesn't care about these kind of issues, but there are always something interesting to learn, to talk, to, you see,
Yeah.
it's possible to do this change.
I like what you said here. The first thing is being organized. I guess you need to have a very good organization skills to be able to do that. And one of them, like you said, is know in advance what you have to do. I mean, project yourself 3 days in advance, knowing this is what I'm going to have to do and deliver in 3 days. So this is what I'm going to do to make it happen. So that's a really good tip. And what you said, and I love it, is enjoy it. What's the point if you're not enjoying? So there's no point in stressing out about this if it's not fun for you. And I love the fact that you can also switch your attention depending on the crowd with whom you are. That's a huge skill. Huge skill.
And probably I would like to add that I also realized very early that when I was not very happy living abroad, and I was noticing the bad things about that place. And everything is only what you feel. And I very soon realized that a place is not important. It's important, but until a certain extent. And then it's really how you feel inside. And now, for instance, I always heard that, oh my God, it's raining. And I always think, doesn't matter. what take an umbrella. So it's things outside you. I feel the level of influence is very, very small for me. I really try to feel happy inside, and that made me the energy really to continue with this.
I love that you said that. It reminds me of one of the quotes I remember my first manager told me. It's not about your environment. You cannot change your environment, but you can change how you perceive it. Mm-hmm. And like you said, it's all about how you perceive things and how you decide to manage the challenges that you have around you. It's we can also change our perspectives. And that's a great quality to have, especially when moving abroad and from a country to another. And I like when you said it's not about the country at the end of the day. It's about how you feel deep inside. So that's really great. So on top of that, your mom, right? So how do you do that? How do you manage all of this in your family?
Oh, my kids are already grown-ups. Yeah. I am a very proud mother because they are very successful. My daughter works for the World Bank. She's a mathematician. And my son, also a scientist, he studied physics at in London, and he now works for a consulting firm in Denver, Colorado. So, and I'm very, very proud of them. They are not only good professionals, but very good people.
And you participated to their success with their studies and everything. I remember we talked about it once, that you were very proud that you could participate to financing their studies thanks to your portable career that you've built.
Yes, because, diplomats, normally when they are in the country, they don't necessarily earn as much as that they get when they are abroad. And my daughter, who was going to Columbia University at that time that we were living in Peru, of course, that was a huge impact in our finance. And I was really glad to be able really to contribute to the economy of the family at that precise time. Yeah.
That's amazing. So that's really, for those who want to do the same, how did you manage to earn that money because at that time your kids were much younger. So how did you manage your family, your tasks as a mom, as a wife, and be able to earn that money to be able to support your family? Any insights about that?
Yeah, I am. That's a good question. I don't know. I probably got the right job at the right time. But the time that I was mentioned, it was really when my daughter went to the university. I was not as young as I was in a stage in my career that I had a manager position in a company.
Yeah. So that's great. And so before we say goodbye, is there any tips you would like to share with other expat spouses who want to build a career like you did in their very specific niche in research, which is very specific, and in general, any tips you would share?
I would say be resilient. I noticed that sometimes it's not easy. I had a lot of ups, but a few downs. Sometimes I was feeling that the job that I was having, it was not up to what I could have. But I thought, okay, that is a step to keep my career going up. So, and keep moving. Don't feel that because you are not getting everything, you are not going to be able to move again up.
Yeah, be resilient and keep going. That's a great message to share. And is there any book that you would recommend to the Nomad Nation?
I probably, as I mentioned, I'm very focused on in books related to economy, but I enjoy. I'll say 2 months ago a book that is called "Who Cooked Adam Smith's Dinner." By Catherine Marçal. And the reason why I enjoy is, even though it's a book about women in economy, is witty and entertaining book that show you how incredible that the women job, especially if you are not part of the formal economy, you are not part of the GDP of your country, because incredible, but there is no yet a way to measure the work that women are doing when they are not part of a formal work environment. And many other things about women in the economy. And I like the title because the title is related to the fact that, Adam Smith is the father of the economy. But he was a single man who lived with his mom. So thanks to his mom, he could work. So this is something that you forget. You normally don't take into account that there are always someone that is doing something that allow you to work. So this is a
fantastic book. I can't wait to read it because I talk about it a lot and it's very relevant to the expat spouses. I always say that globalization, as we know it, would never happen if we didn't have the spouses who would move abroad to support their husband's career abroad, to do politics, diplomacy, or business. So this is really a great book. So I will put it nomination on the link of this, on the webpage of this episode. And where can we find you, Sonia, if we want to reach you?
Okay, I am LinkedIn, and of course Facebook, and you can reach me always through my email. I can share with you my personal email, which is my name, Sonia _ and my last name, but my last name as a single, so Balcazar, not Meza-Cuadra,
okay,
at yahoo.com.
Wonderful. I will put that in the webpage of this episode. Thank you so much, Sonia. This was so interesting to get to know your story and how amazingly you managed to build this great career and a portable one. So thank you so much.
No, thank you for having me. Thank you, Amel.
It's a pleasure. Nomad Nation, I hope that you enjoyed the great insights of our guest today. If you did, please make sure to share it with your friends. See you at the next episode and stay tuned to turn your challenges into great opportunities.